You know, did I tell you about the new client I went to?
No.
On the East Coast.
Sure.
I'll tell you what, I asked him about his I-9s, and he said, they're perfect. I said, they're perfect?
Perfect.
Harvester Steve said, they're never perfect.
Never
He said,
perfect.
mine are perfect. He said, how did you get to be perfect? He said, well, that was really simple. He said, it cost me $52,000 in fines from Homeland Security.
Oh my God.
That's
a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. So I tell you what, folks, that's a reality. And that's a true story, okay? And I would suggest you listen real hard to Harvester Steve. He's going to help us to learn how to fill these forms out correctly.
I think the first question is, what is an I-9 form? The I-9 form is a legal document that has to be completed by every employer and employee in the country. So it's a federally required form, just like a driver's license is required to drive a vehicle. You have to have this form on every employee hired after November 6, 1986, to make sure they're authorized to work in the country.
That's why, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what it is and why it is.
It has to be there. So we know what it is, and we know why we have to have it. It may be a little bit bureaucratic, but it's part of the law, everybody. So we're just going to walk you through some key points here to help you guys complete your I-9s correctly. First thing I want you to do is make sure you have the right I-9 form. Look in the bottom left corner, make sure it says 07/17/17. That's the publication date. That's the one you want to have, because a lot of people use old I-9 forms. If you use the old I-9 form, you're going to get fined.
Where did they get these forms?
You just download them on the internet, Ed.
Okay.
Yeah, just type in I-9 form, and it'll be in a PDF, 2 pages on both sides. You can also do it online if you want. Okay. So from there, make sure every employee has one. So even the owners' wives, the owners' husbands, everybody has to have one. If the employers after November 6th, 1986, they have to have an I-9 form. So I'm just going to walk you through some basic points of how to complete the I-9 so you can stay in legal compliance and not pay $52,000 worth of fines. Keep in mind first that section number 1 has to be completed by the employee on his or her first day of work, or when they get a conditional job offer letter. If you complete it before then, you can be sued for discrimination. So section number 1 gets completed by the employee on his or her first date of hire or before the conditional job offer letter. Don't have the employer type stuff in. Don't have them do anything. The employee has to do this. A lot of common errors here, everybody. On this, up here it says their last name and first name, middle initial, and their street address where they live. On their date of birth, sometimes they're going to put today's date instead of their birth date. So keep in mind there. Also make sure that they complete these 4 attestations down here. It's got to be one of these 4, only one of these 4, okay? And then when they're done with section number 1, they're supposed to sign it here and put today's date. That date should correspond to their first date of hire. Some of our guys may not speak English very well. If they don't do this by themselves, they may need a preparer or a translator to complete the bottom part of this section as well. If this section is done, make sure they check the box that says I did use a preparer. If they didn't do it, click the other box. But section number 1, done by the employee on the first date of hire.
Now, if they make a mistake, who's liable?
The employer is liable.
Really?
Yeah, up to a maximum of $2,236 per I-9.
Per I-9.
Yeah.
Wow.
It gets to $52,000 in a hurry.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Yeah. So section number 1, the employee first date of hire, everybody. Next, second page, section number 2. This gets completed by the employer within 3 days. So if the employee starts on Monday, the employer can complete section number 2 on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Okay? This section is very important. This is where the employee actually gives the employer the documents. You guys may be familiar with this page that has a list of all acceptable documents. Make sure that you don't ask for certain documents. The employee has to give you what they have, not what you want to have. Also, when you're reviewing the documents, make sure you don't accept anything that looks phony. It's got to appear to be genuine and authentic on its face. Likewise, don't take any photocopies of anything. It's got to be an original. And make sure none of the documents have an expired expiration date. So they've got to be current. Okay? So on this section, the most common error is way up here at the top. A lot of employers forget this stuff at the top. The last name, first name, middle initial. They just forget to do it. $2,200 fine. Likewise, this box over here says citizenship, immigration status. This over here has to correspond to one of these 4 boxes in the attestations over here. Again, this is all about being compliant, everybody. Don't go fast, don't do them in a hurry, do them the right way and save yourself $52,000. When the employer is completing section number 2, the employer can get one document from list A or a document from list B and from list C. So if they have a list A document from this list and it's not expired, you're fine, you're done, just move on. If they don't have a list A, they can have any document from list B and list C, so they have to have two documents over here to prove their identity and the employment authorization. Make sure you complete this form correctly. It's got the document title, document number, expiration date, and so on, issuing authority. Make sure you do it nice and easy. Make sure you do it correctly. So don't just say you get it from the state of Delaware. You got the driver's license from the state of Delaware Department of Motor Vehicles. Be as thorough and as accurately as possible. So you complete this section here within 3 days. Then the person who completes section number 2 completes this section with their name, their date, the title, the address of the company, and so on. They complete this section, and then they're done. Oh, sorry. You also need the employee's first date of hire right here that corresponds to the date on the front page. It's got to match up all the time, okay? Section number 3 is only done if somebody has to have a document that's re-verified. And keep in mind if their driver's license or their green card expires or something like that. So also keep in mind that for this section, if somebody has an I-9 form and they leave the company and come back within 3 years, they can use the same I-9 form. You would just do section number 3. If they come back after 3 years, you have to do a whole new I-9 form. So if you guys have any questions, call me at any given time. But like Ed said, a couple mistakes here and there can really add up with huge financial penalties. You really have to know what the I-9 form is. It's a federally required form to show work authorization to work in our country legally, to make sure you're compliant and you don't get fined.
Awesome. So this is Head Harvester Ed LaFlamme from the East Coast, and we certainly hope that Head Harvester Steve from the West Coast has helped you to avoid huge fines in the future. Thanks a lot, Steve.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.